When we don't have goals, we don't have anything to look forward, and then we start to get frustrated and we wonder why. She said, no, this is really what I want to do. This is my wake-up call. I want to do something. So she set about putting a plan into action and then implementing that plan. And of course, she succeeded.
The results of the achieving the goal is actually a byproduct of the habits that you build every single day. If you want to achieve your goals, then setting SMART goals is not enough. You need to set effective goals. Hi, it's Lynn Padetti here, and in today's episode, my guest Joanne Love, a high performance coach to Olympic medalists and world record holders, is going to share with us tips on setting goals that you can achieve. For example, if you don't align the goal with your values or understand where the goal is influenced by, there's a little chance in you actually achieving it. So listen up as Joanne shares tips on how you can design your ideal life and achieve all your goals. Hi Joanne, so good to have you here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you because not often do I get to work with someone that has worked with Olympians and world record holders. So I really want to deep dive into how people can achieve their goals, but really look into how these amazing athletes have been able to achieve their goals and what we can learn in business. So thank you so much for being here, Joanne.
Thank you.
So the topic is obviously how to design your life, but when it comes to designing your life, you need to have the right goals. You need to know what you want, right? Is that what you're talking about when it comes to designing the right life?
Yeah, exactly. So when we don't have goals, we don't have anything to look forward to, and then we start to get frustrated and we wonder why. And it's all because we don't really have goals and we haven't really set them well. So probably, Lynn, a little bit that I haven't told you about me is I actually did a big research project into this. And we found that those that had really effective goals had better wellbeing as well. So those that just had the SMART goals, and we've all heard probably about the SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, they're just the tipping points. People were either had really good wellbeing or didn't have good wellbeing. And then those who didn't set goals, well, their wellbeing was quite affected. So it was a very interesting research project done with both athletes and school students, as well as everyday people.
Okay, so having goals is going to improve your well-being, but having effective goal is what you're saying here. What is effective? Can you explain?
So effective is having a focus to start with, knowing clearly what you want and what's the purpose behind it. The second one is influence, so knowing your values and what you stand for, because we're influenced every day in our lives by our mums and dads. We want you to go to university and be a doctor, for example. So we're influenced in how well you can stand up to that and live by your own values. And the last one, of course, is effectiveness, creating a strategy to give you the map that's going to provide the momentum and the motivation to keep going.
Okay, so is this what differentiates great athletes from the mediocre one too, because they also didn't know about the effective goals and setting up just very generic things that we normally learn from?
Yes, exactly. So the very top athletes, that top 1%, they're the ones that have these effective goals. And when I first started doing my research project, there was a similar project going on with the Olympic Committee, and they didn't call it effective goals and they didn't know what the structure was behind it. But when we mapped it out, they had very similar things to what I had in my work. So it was those 1% that really set their goals well that achieved better than those who didn't.
Okay, so focus. Let's start with focus. I'm assuming you're expecting us to kind of like set one goal and then focus into that until you achieve it, or what is it?
Well, I always say your why should have a purpose. And I love the story about Peter Blake. So he was a big yachtsman in New Zealand. I don't know if you've heard this story or not, but he planned to win the America's Cup in 1995. So when you set off on an America's Cup challenge, you've got winches, sails, extraordinary amounts of money you need to even put the challenge together. Instead of having all those metrics and everything, he just set one purpose. Will it make the boat go faster? So it provided his crew and everybody involved in the challenge that clear focus, that clear purpose was what this is all about. So everything they did was, will this make the boat go faster? Will we use these sails? Will it make the boat go faster? So it's very important you know why you want what you do. So if you think you do, my tip for you is ask yourself why 5 times. So, for example, I want to lose weight. So why do you want to lose weight? Because I want to look a little bit better. So why do you want to look a little bit better? Because I might be trying to find a man. I don't know. There's all these things and we can just break it down. So my tip, ask yourself why 5 times to really get to the ground of why you want to do something.
Yeah. So especially like in business, right, we would always want to make more money. It's like one year you're like, I want this. And then when you get it, you want more. So is that even asking why do you want that amount of money? And is the focus, the whole goal of it is to make you kind of understand your clear why so that you can push through the challenges?
Exactly. Yeah, it gives you that strength and that resilience. So what we know now from resilience, and we're probably, a lot of us are affected by it, the new science of resilience is usually we experience something that's really been bad. And how do we get over it? So most of those people, like we're thinking about J.K. Rowling, she got knocked back again and again and again. So what did she do? She said, no, this is really what I want to do. This is my wake-up call. I want to do something. So she set about putting a plan into action and then implementing that plan. And of course, she succeeded. And so resilience is backed by goals as well. If we can learn what we really want, then we can start implementing and planning and making it happen.
When it comes to entrepreneurs, right, we want to make more money, but if you ask deeper, would it mean that the true why might change? The goal might be different. So it's like if I want to serve 100 clients because they mean so much, because I know that I'm going to be able to free up their time, and then the VAs would be able to have jobs, let's say. That means it will shift to my goal as well. Like instead of going for the money, I might be going for like the 100 virtual assistants that I want to create jobs, which will inspire me more. Is that right?
Or even delving deeper, you're providing a job to all these people, you're providing a legacy for these people to keep working. So just diving down into the why and trying to keep going and just, list everything that you can, and then you'll finally turn around and go, wow, that's why I am doing it. That's why I really want to do it.
Yeah. And is the other reason why once you get a clear focus is that you might be able to achieve it in a different way than you never thought?
Exactly, yeah. It opens your eyes to more opportunities. When you've discovered that why, that RAS, there's a reticulating activating system in the back of our head, and it's like a Google search filter. So if we start knowing our why, then we start to see those opportunities out in the world all the time for us. It's a bit like when you go to buy new shoes and all of a sudden you see that pair of shoes everywhere and you thought, I only thought that brand had that style, but you end up seeing them everywhere.
Okay, and then the next one you're talking about is influence. Is this around the fact that, is this really truly your goal, or are you influenced by someone else's dream? Is that right?
Exactly. So what are your values and what do you stand for? So everything that we do comes from top down. Will I go out and pull the weeds out of the garden, or will I sit in front of the TV and watch a movie? So it's determined by what's important to you and your needs. So when you know your values and when you know what you stand for, you're more apt to do it. When you don't know your values and you don't know what you really want, it's really easy to be led astray. And unfortunately, and as I said, I've got a goal setting indicator where people can take a test. It's been really interesting because people up to about 25 are really heavily influenced. And then over 25, we get a bit wiser and we go, no, this is really what I want to do. You're not encouraging me. I know, for example, somebody tells me I'm good at something. I go, oh, really? Oh, right, yeah, I think I'm good at this. So I'll keep going and keep doing it rather than going, no, I don't really like doing this. It's not what I want to do. I want to be something else. So,
Okay. And then finally, the effective part. Can you give me more clarity around what does that mean?
There's a few areas in this one. So it's whether your goals are smart. So, for example, if we plan to do a trip into the country, we want to go to, say, Kyneton, which is not far out of Melbourne, we'll go, okay, how far is it away? It'll take me an hour. If I need to be here by that time, then we work backwards. And what happens with a lot of people when they set their goals, they go, oh yeah, I'd like to earn 100,000 by the end of the year, but they don't work backwards in how they're going to achieve it. So, we really should be working backwards. So you need to have a smart goal. So you also need to be a clever goal setter because, as I said before, with our RAS coming into operation, we really need to write our goals down. By writing our goals down, it actually sends memories into the brain. And it activates that RAS to see what we want to do and help us through that. And then the last stage of that is visualisation. A lot of the athletes in particular, before they go out for their race, they'll stand there and visualise their race from the moment they walk on the deck, wave at the crowd, swim the race, come back in, own it at the end of it. Yes, I won. And they'll visualise that whole thing. And it's the same thing that happens when we write it down. The brain doesn't know what becomes real and what isn't real. And there's a whole lot of research that's coming out of this as well. So say you can't go to the gym one day because you're hurt or whatever. You can still do bicep curls, and they've found that people that even just imagine they're doing bicep curls, their strength will increase. So visualization is really powerful, but you've got to invoke all your senses. So you've got to try and smell it. You've got to hear it while you're doing it and see it in colour as best you can.
Yeah, I totally heard of that experiment that they did. The people that imagined it just had gained the strength as much as the people that actually did it. So when it comes to achieving your goals, sometimes you don't get your goals. So what is that makes the difference between athletes that kind of last through their career of 10 years, regardless of their failures, versus ones that kind of give up because they didn't achieve the goal? So any tips around being able to bounce back from not achieving your goal?
The more effective a goal setter you are, the easier you'll bounce back. And that's what we found through our research. If your goals are really wishy-washy, forget it. You're not going to bounce back. You're going to blame yourself. You go into depression. Very sad, but that's what happens. Whereas those with effective goals can reflect and go, wow, yeah, what did I go wrong? What do I need to do? Now, what do I need to change going forward? And that's what they do. Probably one of the big points with this, though, is you need to have goals that you can control. So many times, so where athletes go wrong in particular, they'll say, I want to win a gold medal at the Olympics. So what they now know is not to set goals like that. So they set goals they can control, which is a time. The world record for the 100 men's free is 47.3 at the moment. So Kyle Chalmers wants to win that goal, but he's not going to write, hey, I want to win a gold medal. He's going to go, I want to swim 47.2 to be the fastest man there is.
Right.
And he can control time, but he can't control what another athlete does.
Yes, that's right. Because I mean, even losing weight, instead of like saying, I want to lose 5 kilos, what I've learned over this is deciding what am I going to do every day to get there. So how many times do I actually exercise? How is going to be my eating? Because the results of the achieving the goal is actually a byproduct of the habits that you build every single day. Is that right?
Yeah. That's the last point, the effectiveness. The well-designed strategy. What do you need to do? And it doesn't mean that, like you were saying, you don't need to count calories. You just need to pick up your exercise and do a little bit more. And just creating that habit changes things.
Setting an effective goal is, I know, I agree that it's important, but which one is even more harder or more important? What would you say in terms of the habit building side?
So I believe you've got to have a backup strategy. That's one of my big points is so many times some days are just hard. You get out of bed and you don't feel like going to the gym or you don't feel like what you need to do. So you create a backup strategy. So I use what I call an if-then schema. So what it does, again, it sets a program in your head. So, for example, we use the dieting analogy again. If I eat one chocolate, then I'll walk 5 kilometres around the streets. Or if I eat one chocolate, then I'll stop at only 2. Because what happens when people get this chocolate, they go, I've broken my diet, I might as well just eat the whole pack now. And off we go. And, the diet's out the window. But if we have this schema, this backup strategy in our head, then that stops that happening. Because as soon as you do the first one, it'll go, oh, okay, now I've got to go for a walk for 5 kilometres. And that will get you back on track again. So make sure that you've always got a backup strategy. So work out what your obstacles are. What are the things that are going to make you come undone? List them out and then create processes so that you can overcome them.
So you're already proactively planning for the things that could actually sabotage your success and then have a plan of what to do when that happens, right?
Yeah. And we all know what they are, depending on what you're trying to do, whether it's, even picking up phone to make sales calls, we delay that. So what's your backup strategy? Okay, I'm not going to have a coffee in the morning until I've done 2 calls or something like that, so you can make sure that you're doing what you need to do.
Yeah. So would you say the other part of success with goal setting is just doing what you say you're going to do, holding yourself accountable, or just have, self-integrity?
Yeah. That's a big one. And accountability buddy's a good one. But make sure it aligns with what you want to do. And where we go wrong so many times is we have what I like to call yes friends. Our girlfriends or our, best friends are usually people that are very similar to us. So when we go, oh, it was too hard, I shouldn't have done it anyway, they go, yeah, that's right, yeah. And they just agree with you, then you don't do it. So what you need is somebody who's going to challenge you and say, well, hold on, why couldn't you do it? Rather than going, yes, I agree with you. So we need an accountability buddy. If we're trying to do something, being an entrepreneur, it's a great way to have people that are in the same group.
Yes.
Who can keep you accountable. You said you were going to make 20 calls this week. Did you make 20 calls this week?
like Tony Robbins says, raise your standards. And, basically, and it's also important to have friends that have high standards so that they can actually pull you up as well. The other question I have is around kind of setting goals that are, how you've heard of the hairy audacious goal, the big hairy audacious goal, and then the middle goal, and then the minimum goal. So what's your advice around that?
Okay, so this might take a while to explain this. So really, a goal should be something that other people laugh at. So what happens in our body is our systolic blood pressure goes up when a goal is moderately hard. When you can't do it, it'll just drop to the bottom. But when our systolic blood pressure goes up, and for those people who don't know, that's a top reading when you go to the doctors and get your blood pressure read, 120 over 80. So it'll probably go up to 150 or 160 when you read your goal out loud if it's moderately hard. That raise of the blood pressure sets you on action pathway. You're ready to act and go for it. If your goals are too easy, it'll still go up a little bit, but not as much. But yeah, that moderately hard goal is what will get that blood pressure enough for you to take action. The other thing that happens now is with our neurotransmitters, so many of us are low in dopamine. Lack of dopamine is showing up in Parkinson's disease, depression. The inability to learn is low dopamine. So there's a whole range of factors. So how can we lift our dopamine? By setting a couple of small goals. So I like to say that, every day we should set 3 goals. 2 that you can achieve quite easily, and then 1 that's a little bit harder. And just by setting those 3 goals, you're raising your dopamine levels. But what you need to do to just raise them that little bit more is just reward yourself. So what's the thing that's a bit more of a stretch? And if you achieve it, you can reward yourself. And it doesn't have to be anything great. It can be having your husband prepare your favourite dinner or watching your favourite TV show on TV. And that could just be the reward. And that's just going to help that dopamine kick in. And dopamine is responsible for making us a go-getter.
So that's why you kind of have to have goals that you can achieve so you can kind of tick. It's like when they say you get dopamines out of just even ticking your to-do list, being able to, done that, and you kind of feel good about yourself. And so you're saying that you have to incorporate a little bit of that as well as a bit of a stretch goal so that you could really push yourself higher.
Yeah, so you have the big one in the future, but then you have all these little goals that just ramp up to that big one. But when you're getting close to your big one, the trick is to reset some new goals for the future. Because if you don't, what happens then is you go into a dopamine low, which is a bit like a sugar low. So, we have too much sugars, and you've seen it with kids, and they just they're horrors for a little bit, and then they're just laying on the couch doing nothing. Well, the same goes with us. We achieve a big goal and we have nothing to look forward to in the future, we'll get very depressed. And this is what happens with athletes. And you probably see them, they go to the Olympics, they win medals, and they come back and they're talking about quitting because they're in this very big low.
That's right. I can't imagine my life without goals. It's just like I feel I'll get bored. I don't know what to wake up to. So I'm such a goal-getter. Is there a danger in people that are just obsessed with creating so much goals and being achievers as well? And any advice to give us this kind of moderate life, design a life that is kind of healthy? How do you not obsessively do it and always trying to strive for something?
Some people just go overboard, and that's a little bit about just setting, to me, as I said, set 3 goals and that's it. Some people have piles of lists of goals, and I think Warren Buffett is a great example here. He just writes down all of the things and he just says, what are my top 5 priorities? And that's what he works on. And then he gets rid of the rest until he removes 1 or 2 off the list, and then he'll reevaluate what his next lot of priorities are. In today's world, with what's going on with COVID, it's really important that we don't overwhelm ourselves with too many things. So, I'm a big stickler for 3. Warren Buffett was 5, but I would definitely keep it between, 3 and 5, no more.
Yeah, good point. And when it comes to designing your life, I feel like, does it mean that we should always be having some goals in different areas of your life as well? Like whether it's family goal or health goal as like one area. Yeah, any kind of advice around the areas that we need to set goals for?
Well, I totally agree with what you just said. I don't believe we do it enough. We set business goals, but we never set goals for ourselves personally, unless it's something along the lines of losing weight or getting fit, And, we should be looking at, hey, how many books do we want to read? Or what would we like to do with our children. And one of my clients, she wanted to go away for her very first holiday. She's never been away on a holiday with the kids. So that was one of her goals and where she was going. And backward planning, right? You need to book the boat before a certain date to make sure you're on it, and backward planning through those steps. And she went away during the July school holidays just recently, and she loved it. And now she's going, okay, I want a bigger one now. Where are we going to go to now? So we're planning holidays for the future. Prior to that, no goals in anything. And she was all over the place, doing millions of things and trying to do different things and not finding any satisfaction with her life. So I do believe we need to set personal goals, goals for our families, goals for our work life, and even down to how many hours do you want to work a day.
Yeah, and the beauty of it all, I find, is that when you achieve a goal, even though it's personal, it actually kind of transcends into other areas. Like if you're happy, your friend who just went on holiday, she's happier, then that means she can work better, and the result kind of passes on to other areas as well, right?
Yeah, so, as I said earlier, the more times you set goals, the better you're going to be. And they've shown that people who set goals have a 300% increase on actually achieving them than people who don't. So, it speaks for itself. I don't understand why people don't do it, but...
Yeah, well, I'm surprised as well because I'm such a goal setter that I can't imagine someone who doesn't have goals. Now, tell me more about what you actually do with athletes. Like, how did you get into this industry, and what usually happens to athletes that they end up, at your door? Like, what do they come for?
So I'm basically all about performance with athletes, so trying to get their best out of them. It usually comes down to very similar to what happens with the goals, the influence, their expectations, if they're a young athlete, it could be their parental expectations or their coach's expectation, and teaching them to understand what their values are. So Kate Campbell, the 100-metre freestyle champion in Australia at the present time, is a great example. She went to Rio Olympics, she didn't do well, and she came back and she went, right, I need to work out what my values are. She took some time off and did a lot of soul searching, and once she found out what her values are, she now goes, instead of standing behind a block and going, oh God, I hope I win because my parents are expecting me to win, or my coach has put so much time into me. One of her values is to be brave. So she stands behind the block and go, can I be brave? Am I brave enough to do this? And another one is be kind. So she's kind to herself all the time. So she's worked out what her values are, which has really changed the way she now competes. So not only is it expectations, it's the pressure caused by what goes on in their mind. So we teach them how they can recognise the triggers that set them off, and then we work with them to make changes to it. So we probably see this in the entrepreneurial world, where we've got to get up and speak, and some people still get the jitters or whatever it is. Working out what causes it. So is it what's going on in your head, or is it just having a big audience in front of you? And then putting actions in place to help overcome them. So, that's
You just reminded me of what happened with me. Was like all my life I was like hustling, and I was really wanting to be successful and working hard. And it wasn't only a few years ago that I realized that I was driven by trying to prove to my parents, because I was quite bitter with the way they didn't believe in me, and I just wanted to prove to them. And just after working with a life coach, I was able to kind of find where that feeling was coming from and why I was hustled, but in a negative way. And just letting go of that without even talking to them, I kind of just wrote a letter to them on my own and said, I'm kind of like forgiving you for how I felt when I was a kid, and from here on, I want to be successful for myself, not for you, but for myself. And it was so liberating. It's like no one did anything apart from my own mind that I freed myself from. And now I still want those goals, and I still want to be successful in whatever terms that I want, but in a more peaceful, healthier way.
No, you are successful.
But it's like you still hustle, but in a positive way, not to prove anyone wrong, but to be in line with yourself. So tell me more about how people can work for you. So you serve athletes, you specialize in athletes, and how do people connect with you?
So probably easiest on LinkedIn is very easy, just Joanne Love. On Facebook as well, or my website. So under Proactive Performance Australia, I know it's a big word, but big website, but proactiveperformanceaustralia.com, and you can find out about some of the things that I do there. So I do work with school children as well as athletes. I work with women a lot too, a little bit of work with women and sporting women, and so that's what I do.
Yeah, I'll definitely put all the links in the description below as well. But thank you so much, Joanne. I learned so much because, I think we get taught goals is like set some smart goals, but I think you've given us so much context to it. And I think once we know how to set goals right, then not only do we achieve goals, we actually achieve it in a peaceful, positive way. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so if anybody's keen to do the goal setting indicator test to see how well they set goals, that's on the website. So if they go to the shop, it's free. So just go click on it and you can have a go and see how well you do set goals.
Oh, that's amazing. So you go through some question assessment to see if your goals are good goals, effective or not.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Joanne, for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. Well, I would love to hear in the comments below, what is your goal for this year? Would love to see how I can help you achieve your goal as well. And I would love to make more content that is going to be able to help you achieve it. So anyway, if you like more content like this, check out my other video over here.